A friend of mine gave me a call recently to tell me that his son just got into Dungeons and Dragons. And he had to laugh because I would always be the one in the office that would be talking about role playing games and I'm an uber nerd and I just love the hobby. And because his son found D&D, he wanted to call and let me know. But he has lots of questions. So, this is the first episode in a series where I talk to you, the parents that may have a child that have come to you and say, "Hey, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons." What does that mean? Hi, I'm Sean. I love tabletop role playing games. I've been playing them since I was a kid. I had a huge gap for many, many years, came back to the hobby and dove into the deep end playing Dungeons and Dragons and lots of different other tabletop role playing games. I've run them, I've played them, I've gone to gaming conventions. I even stream every Saturday morning right here on this channel to talk about role playing games with many of the friends that join me in my chat. So, let's talk a little bit about D&D and where to go from here. Role-playing games are sometimes referred to as tabletop role-playing games. It's to differentiate from computer-based role-playing games. As a longtime role-playing gamer, I often talk about my hobby and then somebody will say, "Oh, yeah, my son or daughter plays Call of Duty." It's not really the same. One of the things about tabletop role-playing games is there's many different titles, different types of systems, different rules, and different settings. And if none of that makes sense to you, that's okay. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those as we progress through this YouTube series. But essentially, I'm going to use Dungeons and Dragons as kind of the focal point because it does have a huge marketing and company behind that game and that brand. And so many folks that encounter tabletop role-playing games, even young individuals and children, know about it because it's been around for quite some time and it has a lot of marketing, it has a lot of actual plays and a lot of spotlight on it. So it's not to diminish from the rest of the hobby, which are fantastic and great games, but for the sake of these videos, we'll be talking about Dungeons and Dragons. So what is Dungeons and Dragons and what is role-playing games? Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D for short, has been around for over 50 years. I grew up playing it, so I'm no spring chicken. And over those years, there have been different editions, as well as different owners of the actual game. It started out with TSR as its kind of founding members came up with the concept of role-playing games. And it derives out of miniature wargaming, actually. I don't want to kind of go into too much of the history. Just know that from TSR, it moved to Wizards of the Coast, and then Wizards of the Coast was acquired by Hasbro. Currently, Wizards of the Coast is a division of Hasbro, and so there is a team internally to that company that puts out a lot of the material for Dungeons and Dragons. The most recent edition is 2024. The most popular, the one that is probably still out in the world and many, many, many players are playing, is 5th edition. Now, some of this may not be pertinent to the discussion right at hand, but it just may be something that comes up as you understand what your child is talking about as they get more into the hobby. But just know that it's a great game, it's fun to play, and there's a couple other aspects that you should know about as it relates to Dungeons and Dragons. One of the concepts at the core of Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games is that it's collaborative in nature. So when you talk about board games, typically you'll sit down, there's a setup, boards and tiles, meeples, or little figures that represent you moving around the board. And there's also win objectives in board games. But in role-playing games, your friends come together and create a party, an adventuring party, set in fantasy or medieval setting of some kind. And through the situations that group or individuals encounter forms a story to be told or experienced. Out of the group of friends or players, there's one that is set aside as the game master. Or in D&D, they're called the dungeon master. So the dungeon master or DM, That person is responsible for adjudicating the rules, which can be pretty complicated and sometimes even debated between the players and the DM. Sometimes the players don't agree with how a rule is necessarily interpreted or adjudicated by the dungeon master, which is something that you want to be aware of because as we progress through this series, there is social dynamics to this game. The dungeon master will come up with situations and scenarios for which the players, through their player characters, interact with. So just imagine that the dungeon master is the individual that provide the setting and the situation and the room and the description, the town and the talking people and elements that they will encounter. That's what the dungeon master provides to the player characters.
They turn to you. Remove their hoods. You recognize most of them from Mockbar. There is one you do not recognize.
And then through there, the players, through their characters, determine what actions they want to make. You might be asking yourself, why does my child love Dungeons and Dragons? It's a creative outlet. You can problem solve and come up with creative ways to solve those problems. You have resources through your character. Your character has certain abilities. Maybe they can cast magic, sneak through enemy territory very, very well. Perhaps they are very physical in nature and they can stop the big, bad, evil villain from executing their master plan, whatever that may be. It's full of adventure. So imagine any adventurous novel you've read, TV show you've watched, movie you've viewed. Think about, wouldn't it be cool to be the main character or the group of characters in that movie and experience it as it's presented? Not only do you get to watch it, you get to participate in it. You get to shape it through your player characters. It's fun. It's also a break from kind of everything else. It allows many of us to kind of escape the doldrums of our jobs, or in your kids' case, school. It allows them to put those things aside and kind of take time to go and play a game with their friends. Typically, it's face-to-face. Even if it's through the computer, it's still face-to-face. It engages the imagination. It's a very open world. There are no borders. It doesn't stop after 40 hours of play. It goes on and on because there's another adventure to go on. There's other things to discover. There are other characters in the world to interact with. As you research D&D and role-playing games, you may come across things that put it in a negative light. But I'm here to kind of put those things to rest, or at least provide additional perspective. D&D and tabletop role-playing games is hugely beneficial to children. It helps them with lots of different things. Social interaction, mathematics, vocabulary. As a matter of fact, there are organizations out there that use tabletop role-playing games with kids with autism that help them break out of their shell and kind of focus in on a particular scenario. The benefits are out there, and you'll come across those, I hope, as well. But some will come across, well, is D&D evil or demonic? And I'll tell you, no, it's not. Now, I will say this, the dungeon master, or the person that conveys the world to the players and their characters, will put in evil monsters, maybe even devils and demons. But I can assure you, by doing that, it doesn't make the players worship demons or devils. As a matter of fact, in a fantasy world, the actual players and their characters are the ones that are the heroes of the story. A lot of role-playing games like D&D will say, you play a hero in a fantasy world. You're out to rid the world of evil, be the guiding beacon of light for all that is good. Think of them of characters being portrayed in Lord of the Rings. Gimli the dwarf, Legolas the elf, Aragorn the ranger. And they're on an adventure to take the ring and help Frodo throw it into the volcano. That's who the party and the player characters represent. When you hear them play, you'll realize it's very, very, very far removed from anything that is seriously detrimental.
The Demogorgon is tired of your silly human bickering. It stops towards you. Boom! Fireball hit Will! Stop! Boom!
Protect!
He was in anger! And fireball! And fireball!
So what should you expect as a parent having a gamer as a child? Well, they may ask you to buy them books or dice towers or tablets of paper or character sheets or miniatures. They may ask if they can go over to a friend's house and play D&D. They may ask you to have friends over and play D&D. Or they may even ask to go online to play with friends and play D&D. They may even ask if you want to play D&D. Or they may even ask you to run a D&D game. And so when you run a D&D game, it's facilitating, becoming that dungeon master and providing that player, your child, with situations and scenarios that they can adventure through. That's what to expect. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first in a series. In the next one, right here, this video, I'll be going over one of the starter sets for D&D. This is something that your child may actually ask for, and I'll give you some insight to what's actually in the box. So if you want to do that, go ahead and click this video. Thanks for kind of letting them get into this, or at least educating yourself about what this is that your child is getting into. Thanks, and see you on the next one.